Hello, today I will begin my new recording. Alexander Onimus, no professor in disciplinary, July 31st, 2022. That's when I wrote the book. That's when I began the essay. This will be an adaptation of the essay, The Afterlife Idea Realm Thesis. The afterlife is a realm only of ideas that manifest into the current life by the simulation. And when people die, they return to the realm of ideas. The thesis could be true for the following reasons. Morality is objective, humans lack free will. The simulation theory is true, God is morality and therefore love itself. God's language is science, so humans struggle to act morally. Abstract ideas can exist by themselves without an observer. The afterlife is proven or close to proven. Dreaming is similar to death because the illusion of self vanishes while one dreams. So much of the world depends on the observer's brain to the extent that neuroscientists believe reality is not real. Some claim with convincing evidence that nature is so complex that negative occurrence can become positive and vice versa. So noting an occurrence as positive or negative is impossible according to some. Arguably, sometimes immoral behavior is justified because the ends might validate the means, thus further supporting the case that the afterlife is a realm of many conflicting ideas, yet love is the guiding force. Also, human-run law is never objective, so humans struggle with morality, so science may be the real source, and the guide is love. Multiple people will argue that each human individual must have a dark side to succeed in an endeavor and lead to the greater good of society, such as societal progress. This thesis could prove that deism, atheism, and theism are a three-way false dichotomy. Clear possession of free will is an illusion, yet morality is objective. Science can answer moral questions and proves humans lack free will, and morality is objective. Harris, 2010. Morality is like math. The answers are objective, yet humans do not get to choose when they note them. One does not get to choose when an idea comes to that person. One does not get to choose how that person will respond to an idea. Yet morality is to be guided by critical thinking, which is science. The simulation theory is true. Physics proves that we are a simulation. Smoot, 2014. However, physics has not yet discovered who the simulator is. Some claim the simulator is a higher civilization. Others claim that it is a supreme being. The thesis of this essay is that the simulator is love itself. The simulator, being love, would explain the source of objective morality. A civilization of only ideas would be a higher civilization. So the higher civilization belief could be a false dichotomy with the thesis. Also, love itself may be the supreme being, revealing another false dichotomy. A higher civilization and a supreme being could be one and the same. God is the source of all morality and therefore love itself. God is love. Barron, 2018. The source of morality is love, so the simulator must be love. This returns to the point that the afterlife is a realm made of only ideas. Yet, the realm is the destination once people have the material realm. Continuing with the thesis, discovering the simulator and the afterlife. Returning to Sam Harris's TED Talk, science can answer moral questions, yet humans do not get to pick when they find those answers. An idea does not need an observer to exist. An idea can be, in quote, a transcendent entity that is a real pattern of which existing things are imperfect representations. End of quote, Merriam-Webster. By that definition, many ideas can exist without the need for any human to have them. They exist without being present in a mind, so the afterlife could be the realm of them. Or another definition of idea, in quote, an entity such as a thought, concept, sensation, or image actually or potentially present to consciousness, end of quote, Merriam-Webster. An idea can just be potentially present in a mind instead of actually present. So the afterlife being connected to the dream realm seems more probable since it is probably a realm of ideas given the thesis of this essay. Perhaps the afterlife is a higher consciousness found in the dream world. The afterlife is either proven or close to being proven. A medical doctor who had no religion conducted an experiment that almost proved the afterlife was real. Infographics 2020. If a doctor lacks religion and conducts an experiment that is almost proof of the afterlife, then at least evidence has been found that could prove the afterlife is real. Hard science has less opinion than soft science. The less something is open to debate, the more likely it is a fact. Therefore, this is evidence but not proof of an afterlife. Dreams are similar to the afterlife because they reveal that the self is an illusion. Firstly, neuroscientific opinions dictate that the self is an illusion. Harris, 2014. If neuroscience dictates the self is an illusion, then that is a great amount of evidence. Neuroscientific opinions may not prove that the self is an illusion, but they are evidence. Once certain elements disappear, the fact something is an illusion becomes more obvious. When one dreams, one's ego vanishes. Kaku, 2014. The ego is the self. So while the illusion of the self may be necessary for survival, it may become unnecessary once one enters the afterlife. Hypothetically, if the afterlife does exist, then upon entering it, a human would have ceased to survive the material world. So a human would have lost many means of survival. Many will argue with convincing proof that reality is not as it seems. Neuroscientific evidence backs the opinion that reality is not as it seems. Big Think 2021. Neuroscientific evidence is much more factual than anecdotal, so reality may likely not be what it seems. Despite the lack of proof, reality probably is not what it seems like. With that in mind, the mind carries even more power, and therefore the afterlife is probably connected to the dream world. The less weight the material realm holds, and the more open to influence it is, the more likely another realm exists that it is more important. Philosophy continues to point out that the material realm is difficult to interpret because of nature. Some argue that nature is so complex that anything can be neither noted as positive or negative despite intuition. Watts, 2018. This determines the material realm can be almost impossible to predict. The material realm is highly unpredictable. Usually value judgments dictate so many actions, yet if those are impossible to make, then the entire realm may just be a giant puzzle impossible to solve. If one violates ethics believing that those means are somehow justified by some ends, then morality is still at play. However, many ideas are at conflict, but with love being the guiding force. Occasionally, a politician must act unethically to keep his people stable. Machiavelli. Usually, a politician has considerable power if that governor is at pains to make a moral choice. So stability is very important, and one must weigh what is the most important. However, returning to Watts in this essay, if an unethical act harms a party, then the party may somehow be okay. So the unethical actions of a ruler to keep his people safe may be at the expense of even the lives or even the lives of others. So the unethical actions of a ruler to keep his people safe may be at the expense or even the lives of others. Nature is so complicated that the sacrifice party may somehow still prosper and reach utopia. Natural law may be the only objective law that governs or tries to any way human behavior. That is because human-run law is never objective. Williamson, 2021. Humans are prone to unethical behavior, so them lacking the ability to create a system to objectively measure and judge the ethics of people should not be a surprise. Misanthropy is accurate in that humans are not perfect and bound to break natural law. Humans, therefore, are incapable of running objective legal systems. Perhaps human capital can be counterintuitive because one's negative impulses can, when rearranged, serve a higher purpose. One can lose one's best value when abandoning their inner impulses to be unethical. Nietzsche. Human potential, therefore, can be counterintuitive. Intuition dictates that more value in all places diminishes no value. However, according to philosopher Nietzsche, one can lose a high amount of potential when abandoning their inner impulses towards evil. This returns to the premise that the ideas inside of the human brain greatly impact the material world. So much of the dream world may be the gateway to the afterlife. Social science has displayed other counterintuitive insights about character traits, such as that one's negative impulses or feelings are often disguised as positive ones and vice versa. Green. Certain analysis demonstrates that if someone feels strong positive feelings towards something, that person may at face value show negative feelings towards that entity instead. The reason for this is unknown. However, it could be related to why one's impulses towards unethical behavior can be converted into productive achievements when rearranged. If one could predict the psychological evolution unexpectedly, then that would perhaps... If one could reach a psychological evolution unexpectedly, then that would perhaps be for the good of society. However, counterintuitively, that individual may have undesirable characteristic traits as they reach that height, but still the goodness of the progress would outweigh the effects of unwanted behaviors. Nietzsche, through Debatte in 2015, a cost method analysis can mean the survival or destruction of an entity. So the analysis of individuals' psyche's greatness can be very important for society. Once again, ideas conflicting determine a significant amount of what is manifested. So while love is the guide, the afterlife is probably composed of ideas in their purest form composing their own realm. The research demonstrates the afterlife is quite possibly a realm of ideas that contrasts to the current life's material realm. However, more research should be done to figure out what the afterlife entails. A good chance exists that theism, and atheism, and even agnosticism are a false dichotomy of form. The afterlife may be deist in that the deities are really forces without their own selves. Therefore, reality has no creator being to influence it. Yet theist in that the forces are ideas and contribute to the world through the simulation. Yet atheist in that the deities are not beings. And agnostic in that humans may never know what the afterlife entails. That has been the afterlife realm, the afterlife idea realm thesis. Next up, I will give the adaptation. That will actually be part of this adaptation for how to find the afterlife. A way to find the afterlife, how to preview the afterlife. As I shall see, we shall find out how to preview the afterlife. Alexander Onimus, no professor, no specific subject. July 16th, 2022 was when I began to write this essay. How to preview the afterlife. Preview the afterlife one must hack the simulation, therefore the best option may be to take psychedelics. A step-by-step guide to preview the afterlife would be very useful. More research should be done because this guide could be incorrect. Physics proves that reality is a simulation. Smoot 2014. That fact is compatible with all of the other parts of this essay. The master of the simulation is still unknown, however, theories exist. Reality is a simulation, however, the simulator is unidentified. The duty of the simulator is unknown. What makes the simulation even more intuitive is that it can be hacked and therefore the afterlife can be found potentially. The afterlife can potentially be found through hacking. Hacking can be taking psychedelics. Some argue that an afterlife does not exist. However, that is often because some extreme doubters may believe that the belief in such leads to more harm than good. The afterlife may exist, but belief in such does more harm than good. Harris, 2011. Respectfully, Harris is incapable of debunking the existence of an afterlife. Harris, however, believes greatly that belief in such does more negative than positive. Harris points out how dogmatic religion results in the afterlife becoming a reason for differences with outsiders. Harris believes those differences are bad for civilization. He does not consider religious tolerance enough. Harris does not consider non-dogmatic religions enough. Harris does not consider non-dogmatic religions enough. Harris unnecessarily criticizes religion and is excessively doubtful of the afterlife. Sam Harris may be surprised by the findings of science. Science proves that consciousness goes on past death and therefore the afterlife is proven. Infographics 2020. The source summed up by itself that the afterlife is proven. So just because a belief is inconvenient does not mean it is false. Belief in the afterlife is backed by facts. Many of the illusions that potentially block the afterlife are useful for survival. The illusions include money, time, and ego. Wants. Money is definitely an illusion because its value comes from what it can be used for. Therefore, money loses its value under surroundings that is validated. Money is somewhat like a menu. Some of these illusions are necessary for survival. Without ego, one would be unsafe and fall prey to forces. However, the self is an illusion. Time definitely helps people survive, even if it is an illusion. Without the illusion of time, people would stagnate. People would stagnate because they would lose their will to be productive. Both physics and neuroscience can go on to further back the theories that ego and time are both illusions. Neuroscientific evidence indicates that the self is an illusion. Harris 2014. Sam Harris is a neuroscientist who, with neuroscientific evidence, has come to the conclusion that the self is an illusion. A theory backed with evidence has chances of being true. Time being an illusion is a theory backed by evidence found in physics. Jones 2018. A theory could be false. Evidence is not proof. However, a theory backed by evidence has a chance of being true. So physics may prove that it is an illusion. Hard sciences may prove that both time and the self are illusions. Perhaps the human mind is made to survive and not to recognize reality. Historical evidence indicates that human minds were made to survive and not recognize reality, and at times surviving called for having delusions, such as believing the Earth was the center of the solar system. Hoffman 2019. If having a delusion is not a major setback, then having it can potentially be an advantage. Some delusions can propel people forward. An example would be believing a deadline for an important task is earlier than it actually is. So, the theory that humans were made to survive and not understand and not recognize reality is backed with evidence and has not been debunked yet. Scientific evidence may prove more of the thesis. Some hard scientific evidence indicates that psychedelic experiences and reaching the afterlife may be connected. Pomeroy 2021. Through examining brains and near-death experiences, evidence can be found that brains start to showcase psychedelics when death grows near. This evidence was discovered by analysis of near-death experiences. Psychedelics are somewhat connected to the afterlife, and entering a new form of consciousness may be very different from the material world. Perhaps a way exists to reach and preview the afterlife without dying automatically. Historical evidence may support a theory that using psychedelics may be a way to preview the afterlife. Hancock 2018. The civilization studied was ancient Egypt. Egypt is highly complicated. History, including Egypt, is highly complicated. Thus, historical evidence is not always proof. Evidence only supports theories. Therefore, a good case could be made that psychedelics may be the key to previewing the afterlife. The research demonstrates that a way to preview the afterlife may be psychedelic use. This essay is backed by evidence not proof. Some argue that the afterlife is beyond human understanding. So more experiments and research should be done to discover how to preview the afterlife without dying automatically. That has been the second book that has been adapted. I thank you for listening. This video was created by Alexander Onimus.